My name is Brian. I'm 43. I just had back surgery after 17 years in heavy construction. I'm not telling this for pity. I'm telling it so you know what happens when a man is treated like a product and decides not to wait around for clearance. I was in the bathtub trying to soak away the pain, the kind that shoots down your spine and makes your whole body clench, when I heard my wife, Heather, whispering in the bedroom next door with our son. If he dies, we get the insurance. If he lives, it's just more debt. Either way, we win. And then they laughed. Together. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sank a little deeper under the water. Not to die, but to be still. To practice the silence. 40 seconds. In the dark. In the cold. Inside the kind of truth you never think you'll live to hear. The woman I'd called my wife for 17 years, and the boy I taught to ride a bike, read to every night before bed, were joking about my death like it was a smart investment. That day, a man died in that bathtub, not from drowning, but from betrayal. After that night, I said nothing. No outburst, no confrontation. I sat at dinner with them, watched Heather pour me tea with that fake smile, listened to Remington talk about his grades. But in my mind, a plan was forming. I opened a private bank account, changed every password, called the life insurance company, and found out Heather had doubled the policy, with an e-signature that wasn't mine. I documented everything, bills, voice recordings, screenshots, every little piece of the puzzle they never thought I'd be sharp enough to solve. And I wasn't just planning an escape, I was preparing for a rebirth. 3 weeks later, Remington walked into the living room, where I'd been sleeping to recover, and asked me to help him buy a cheap car from a friend. The same kid who laughed at the thought of me dying for a payday was now asking for my help with a loan? I looked him dead in the eyes, and for a second I saw the boy I once loved. But then I remembered the laughter, and I just shook my head. I landed a job in Colorado, far away, quiet, a place where no one knew who I was, and no one needed me to die to make their life better. I packed silently, backed up my evidence, called a lawyer, prepped the house to be listed, and then I planned what I called the Last Supper. Heather and Remington sat down to eat pad thai, her favorite. I poured the wine. I smiled. And once everything felt just cozy enough, I said my first real words in weeks. I took a job in Colorado. I leave in 2 weeks, alone. They were stunned. Heather denied it all, sobbing, screaming. Remington just sat there, frozen, a single noodle still hanging from his lips. Then I played the recording. Heather turned ghost white. Remington started crying. Real tears. The first I'd ever seen from him. But it was too late. I stood up, looked around the room, and said my final words. You didn't kill me with a knife, or a gun, or poison. You killed me with your contempt, and now I choose to live, but not with either of you. 2 months later, I was sitting on the balcony of my new apartment in Colorado, watching snow kiss the mountaintops. The phone rang. It was Remington. Voicemail. Dad, can you come home? Mom won't eat. She just stares at the wall. Dad, please. I froze. My hand tightened around the coffee mug. There was a time I would have gone back. Forgiven. Saved them. But not anymore. I didn't call back. But the next morning I left a voicemail. When you turn 18, if you want to come visit me, my door's open. I never stopped loving you. But love doesn't mean forgetting. And that's how a man who was once treated like a burden chose to start over, not to get revenge, but to prove something deeper. People may wish you dead for their benefit, but you can choose to live and make them watch as they fade away without you. If you've ever been dismissed, if someone ever made you feel like you're only worth something when you're lying 6 feet under, remember this: dying is easy, but living free, rebuilding, thriving, that's the real answer. The wind howls across the mountains behind my cabin, a small redwood home carved into the rock, just 15 minutes outside a quiet town I now call mine. It's been 3 years since I walked away from that so-called home, full of cold meals and colder hearts. Now it's just the past, a chapter closed, one I thought would stay buried. Until one June morning, as I was brewing my coffee, the phone rang. It wasn't Heather, it wasn't Remington. It was a call from the clerk's office back in my old town. They needed confirmation. Who was Remington's legal guardian now that he'd turned 18 a few weeks earlier? My hand trembled. I knew the day would come. And sure enough, a week later, I received an email from Remington. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I just want to see you one more time. Not to ask for anything, just to understand. I'll be in Colorado next week, staying at a hotel near downtown. If you want to meet, I'll be there. If not, I understand. I read the message over and over, dozens of times, and instead of replying with a long explanation, I sent just one line. Saturday, 10 a.m., bakery on the hillside. I'll be waiting. Remington walked into the cafe wearing an old gray button-up, taller now, stronger, but it was his eyes that caught me, holding that quiet kind of sadness. Not the kind that comes from teenage sulking, but the kind you carry when you've messed up and you're learning how to live with it. We talked like two men, no blame, no bitterness. He didn't cry, I didn't either, but there were long stretches of silence where everything we didn't say sat between us. I used to hate you, he said quietly, but not because you did anything wrong. I was just stupid, and I didn't understand what you were going through. Mom, she's not the same anymore. I nodded. I knew. Heather had sent me a letter a few months back, handwritten, purple ink, shaky handwriting. She wrote about depression, losing her way. How the first real slap from reality came when Remington moved out the day after his 18th birthday. I thought I had everything, she wrote, but when I lost my husband and my son, I realized all I had was the illusion of control. I'm sorry, not for your forgiveness, but so I can forgive myself. I didn't write back. Not until today. 2 months after that first meeting, Remington moved to Colorado. He started an apprenticeship at a construction training center, not far from where I work. Funny how life works. He found passion in the same things I once loved, the things he used to ignore. Maybe pain has a way of making us see our parents differently. Heather came in the fall. She didn't come to apologize, didn't ask for anything. She just came. Her eyes softer, her frame thinner, her presence more honest than ever before. We talked, not to go back, but to see if something else could begin. Not a restart, but maybe a start from the place we broke. And now, I'm sitting on the front steps of my home, watching Remington paint the fence. Heather is in the backyard watering the garden. There's no perfect dinner on the table, no picture-perfect laughter, but there's peace, and that's enough. What I've learned is this: not everyone who fails you deserves to be locked in your past forever. Sometimes forgiveness isn't about letting go. It's about rebuilding something new from the wreckage, with your own hands, with the same people who once hurt you, but who also once meant everything. And now, I've survived. And for the first time in a long time, I'm really living. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever been broken and found the strength to rise from the very place you fell, leave a comment, share your thoughts, and hit subscribe. Not for the views, but so we can keep telling real stories, holding space for real emotions, and reminding each other that yes, we've been shattered before, but we can still live beautifully all over again. Thank you for listening to my story.